Well, welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the ConquerCast. I'm here with somebody incredible today. I'm super excited for this one, and he's driven down from Vernal, Utah to be with me. He's Sidney Smith. Many of you know him. If you don't, you need to look into Sid. His story, his life, everything will inspire you about this man, and especially some of the transformation that he's been going through lately. But I'm very excited about this one because of the things that I've learned, the things he's done to serve me and our Mountain Ops community. The first time I ever met Sid was at Sidney. He said I could call him either, so I'll probably go between both. We were at a total archery challenge, and it was a 5K, Cam Haines 5K trail run. I had never met you, but you came across that finish line, and it's something to witness. I mean, this guy's done Ironman. He's a runner. He's a swimmer. He's a biker. But he's missing both of his legs. And so I watched him come across. I was like, holy cow, this is incredible. I didn't even run that day. I don't know if you knew that. Like, my wife and kids went and ran it, but I have a bad knee, and then here's a guy coming across with no knees. And
that was my first trail run too.
Was it really?
Yeah. I was super nervous because I'm like, how am I supposed to like run with Cam? I can't keep up with a guy like
You probably did. I mean, you came across, and I was just so awe-inspired, and I was waiting for my wife and my kids to come, but I honestly didn't do it because of my knee, and I ended up having surgery to fix that, and now I run. But you came across, and I remember like standing close to you, and then you kind of came over and said, hey, do you mind if I lean on you for a minute? And I just thought, so you leaned on me, you put your arm up on my shoulder, and you just leaned, and you kind of, bouncing back and forth on those pogo sticks. And I just felt like honored that like you would come and say, hey, can I lean on you for a minute? While I was sitting there like leaning on the inspiration I was receiving from the life that you're living, and I didn't even know you yet. And I was like, of course you can lean on me if there's anything I could do for you. And then there was this obviously a friendship that was built, and then a partnership through Mountain Ops, and we've known each other for a very long time now. But you've come and spoke to my church congregation with the youth, and I mean, you're just an incredible friend, an incredible individual, and I appreciate the example that you've been in my life for so long. Thanks for being here.
Oh, I'm happy to be here. This is honestly an honor to get that call, and I do remember that day. And in fact, I lean on people, for people that don't know, is that I had my blades pointed downward, so I'm just like on a deck of cards as far as the surface area. So just to balance is hard, and of course, I didn't want people to think I had to go pee. So I'm like, hey, lean on you, buddy, because I'm doing the potty dance.
Yeah, that's awesome. No, it was incredible to meet you that day. And so a lot's transpired since then. And there's probably a lot of people listening that might have heard your story, but there's probably plenty of people that haven't. So I'd love to dive into some of that today. And it sounds like before we got started, you've done a podcast from this studio before. We're here at the Mountain Ops headquarters. This podcast studio was built out as we built out the inside of this building 6.5 years ago, and it was for the Gritty podcast.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, we did a documentary because I made the goal. I hadn't done it. I'd done half Ironman, but I didn't do the full Ironman. So we made the goal, and this film company where I live, V6 Media, they decided to document this decision and my story on how I lost my legs. And they're like, well, how do you want to tie it into? And I said, companies I know well are Mountain Ops, and it worked really good. They called Matt Davis, and he's like, yeah, I think it worked well. Talk to you, and we did like just a short documentary called Sid.
Yep.
And then we did the podcast in here afterwards. Like Bill Bryan and his brother and Matt. That was seemed like forever ago.
How long ago was that?
Well, it would have been. Let's see. So I lost my legs. This will be my 9th year.
Right.
And it was shortly after, so it'd probably been about 6 years ago.
Wow.
Maybe 6 years.
Cool.
So.
Well, we'll link that documentary Sid in the information on this podcast when it launches, so that people can see it, because it is very inspiring. I think it's on the Mountain Ops YouTube channel as well. And so let's dive into that a little bit. Tell me about your story. Tell me, why you don't have legs. What happened there? And because it's kind of incredible the way somebody might think, were you born like this? Have you dealt with this your whole life? And it hasn't been that. Maybe give us a little history there.
No. I get all kinds of assumptions. Like I wear camo because and the Mountain Ops logo also gets because it has that power, almost a military look to it. So when I wear Mountain Ops in the airport, I get a lot of thank you for your service.
Yep.
You appreciate. What branch is that? I'm like, well, kind of
The Mountain Ops branch.
my surprise. They're pretty tough guys. I lost my legs to a disease called Charcot-Marie tooth. It was something that I was born with, but it was a progressive genetic thing. So basically, I was born with a normal body. I didn't have any problems, and it wasn't until I hit about 5th grade, where 12-year-old-ish is when my feet started to have problems. So I trip a lot. I struggled with sports, and the disease was a progressive thing. So it just got slowly worse, and my ankles would roll, my arches would get high, my toes would curl, and then I would lose atrophy from my from my knee down.
And you just started finding this out at 12 years old. You didn't at birth they couldn't tell anything. It was just
no.
Okay.
My parents said I struggled with walking, but they just thought I was a klutz. So, but I went to a doctor, and that's when I got diagnosed with that disease. We did some surgeries to kind of put them back into order, and they know very little even now because there's no cure for it.
Yeah, how rare is this disease?
Well, it's actually fairly common among the muscular dystrophy family, but my type, because it's within that, there's different types. Mine's a very severe type, especially in the feet. And so not a lot actually end up losing their legs like me. There are a few, and some of them just, get it when they're older and they just decide not to try prosthetics, or they, it's has a halt and it just kind of gets bad, and then it kind of stays consistent for a while, which mine did. And then when I hit 30 is when it went downhill. I had these braces growing up too. I had them on my mission, and there are these mechanical braces, kind of like what Forrest Gump.
Yeah.
So, and ironically, that's when the movie came out.
Oh, right.
So so everyone was like, "Run, Sidney, run!" And these braces. So I still have those braces because they're kind of a memory of what things was like. Right. But eventually, those braces caused problems and ulcers, and I'd break my feet inside of them because they kept turning, and there was really no foundation. Wow. The muscle, once the muscle's gone, it's just really limited on anything.
How was that growing up with that? You're going into, your adolescent years. There's all sorts of challenges in and of itself going into the teenage years, and everything. Our bodies are changing. Friends are weird. Friends are mean. Friends are, there's little cliques and stuff. Like, did that affect anything, or did your friends rally around you?
I had some really good friends, but I had, I'm a type 7 personality. I get FOMO. I like to be involved. I like to be part of things. I see my brothers climbing mountains and doing sports. But I had really good friends. I had good leaders in my church. My parents were always very compassionate. Deep down, I wanted to be like that, but I kind of had a strong foundation. I had a little bit of faith, but also growing up, I could tell, like, I don't, why me? Why is this happening to me? Like, God, what's the purpose behind it? And as a kid, you don't think that deeply, but it was clear to me that I was going through something different, and going to different seminars about this disease. It just like, well, shoot, this is going to be worse as I get older. So I started to build a little bit deep down. I still had a lot of faith, and I love my Heavenly Father, but part of me almost like a little resentment, like, this is not fair. And I think that's kind of what teenagers think because they don't understand. But I was just like, life's not fair. And that's just how it is. So deep down, I kind of was like, well, it sucks to suck. I think that's one ways I kept putting it, is what it is. Yeah. And so I just kind of put my head down and just continued life. I still
did you do activities and sports, or hunting and that kind of stuff? Was that part of your
swimming? I did swimming in high school. That was kind of like the sport that I could do well in because it didn't really require the feet that much. And then hunting. I loved hunting. But it was also limited. We did horses and we were good road hunters. Yeah. But we kill deer here and there. Yeah. But it wasn't honestly till afterwards that I got really
And then you go on a mission for your church at the age of 19. And where did you go?
Montana.
Montana?
Yeah, it is Montana and then a third of Wyoming.
Okay.
So, and it's funny because all my friends, we all put in our papers around the same time, and they all went to like, one went to Russia and one went to actually India. We had a Dominican Republic. 2 of them went to France. And then I get called to Montana. In fact, one of the places was Lander, Wyoming, which was like 4 hours from my house.
Yeah.
And I was like, what the heck? But I look at it now, it's actually the way my life has played out and where I live. And it's a very similar atmosphere to Montana. And I wouldn't change it for anything.
That's
I love
incredible.
my mission.
Yeah, I mean, I talk to missionaries that come to Utah, like right where our church is, headquartered, and I always ask them, like, how was it when you got the call? They're like, I was pretty disappointed. I'm going to Utah. And then I said, what do you think now? And even if they've just been there for a couple of days, they're like, I'm supposed to be here. I absolutely love it. So it's like this quick change of like, this is where I'm supposed to be. You just kind of go through those experiences where you think it might be one thing, and then it's like, well, this is really close to home, But then you go outside of just your own neighborhoods, and you realize I've kind of been in a bubble. It's almost foreign just going to the next state over, and this and that. So, but how was that with dealing with this charcoal Murray tooth, like on your mission? Was it getting worse and worse during that, and did you have to walk a lot? Was it?
I didn't have to walk a lot, and maybe that's what the Lord had in mind for me. Is I had these braces. I was at the time very cautious of them. I still was, embarrassed. They had these, big old braces. I always wore pants, but as missionaries, we did that a lot. I had a car, and I had one area up in Kalispell where we rode a bike. But for the most part, we had, shared a car with another set, or we had a car all by ourselves. So
awesome. Come home from the mission, get married, start a family, all that kind of the typical fairy tale. Is that what it looked like?
It is, and it is a dream come true. The more I know my wife, even we're going to be hitting 19 years this year. It's just, I don't know. She's just amazing. Like for her to put up with everything that I've, who I am and how I'm always constantly pushing the envelope, and her patience and lets me do those things. But at the same time, I look at her as like, she's my rock.
Yeah.
So it's been a fairy tale. I'm just beautiful kids. I got 4. Like I said, my son's oldest, he's 15, and then I have a 13, a 10, and a 6-year-old.
Yeah, and you're a very intentional dad. I especially think with your son, I watch you guys fishing all the time, doing all sorts of activities together, and I absolutely love it. So,
that's our big bond is the fishing. Now he wants to get into whitetail, and I'm like, not whitetail, waterfowl.
Yeah,
I'm like, I don't have any of that stuff.
Well, you're gonna have it soon.
Yeah.
So how often do you guys fish together? I mean, it seems like a pretty regular occurrence.
Yeah, we do. We do an Idaho trip. We plan that every year with our family reunion. And then ice fishing. We spend a lot of time ice fishing. And then I have a kayak that I've rigged up for kokanee. So I live near Flaming Gorge. So we do a lot of kokanee kayak fishing, and it's just a good bond. I love it. He loves it, which is good. And his friends, that's another important thing. His friends love it. So they think Dad's cool.
That's awesome. No, I agree with you. I mean, looking at your wife and her commitment and love for you, you guys are a great couple. In 19 years, that's no small feat. That's amazing. And so she supported you in your ambitions in life, and you're super ambitious with everything you do. It looked like there was a moment in your life where you had to decide, to do something, to make a change, to have the surgery you did. Was that like this moment where you're like, hey, in order to continue to push myself, I've got to do this? Or where did the spark come from to say, I've got to amputate my legs? Well, because that was a choice, right?
Yeah. And if you would have done this podcast 5, 6, 7 years ago, I would have had a different answer to that one, because it's just funny how the Lord will reveal answers to you differently or more understanding. Part of me for a while was like, I wish I would have had my legs amputated when I was younger. Then I could, take advantage of all these other sports, or even try for the Paralympian, all that stuff. But I look at it now, I'm more like, I knew I had to make this change because my life was going rough. I had a job. I was afraid of losing it because I, struggled to get to and from places. I wanted to play with my kids. And so I was really stressed about, am I going to have that ability? I was conscious about my appearance. Am I going to be still attracted to my wife? Is this the life I'm going to live? I'm now like a financial burden because these doctor visits were and surgeries to try to fix the problem was just seemed like it was never ending. And then of course the pain that involved with that, when you're in constant pain, it's really hard to stay positive and motivated because it just seems like it's this weight that you're always carrying. And then, it's just all this test of my faith. So as an adult, I could handle that. And that's why I'm glad that it happened when it did. And I wouldn't change it for that. But yeah, it was a very difficult decision. It got down to the point where I couldn't walk much, even to get to Walmart in the parking lot, I had to rest to get to in the store.
Wow.
And then I didn't know any other amputees, so I didn't know this was a thing. It was an option. And when the doctor and my dad, we were in the doctor's office at Utah Valley, and he gave me the news that this is your best choice. You could try a wheelchair, but this is your best choice. Yeah. And of course, we prayed about it, went to the temple, and, my wife had to say in it. And it just felt like that was the decision, just a voice saying that everything was going to be okay. That was the calm feeling that it was going to be okay. So,
wow. How
2015.
2015.
So 33.
33.
Yeah.
2015. So 9 years ago.
Yeah.
And you had a handful of kids at the time then?
Yeah, I had three. Yep.
Yeah.
I had three. The one that's my youngest, or my third, that was the youngest at the time, was her and I were just learning to walk at the same time.
Wow.
Yeah, it was kind of a cool experience.
So you guys felt at peace with it, involved God in that process, and then went forward. What was that like? The surgery, the aftermath, this recovery. How was that?
It was scary because of the unknown features of what's this going to be like? I didn't really have a reference to, other amputees. The other amputees in my town were older with diabetes, and I wasn't really into Facebook and, didn't have that connection. But it was hard, especially in the beginning. I had an infection, and I had to go back to the square one. The doctors, I didn't take care of it. I thought I was tough and ended up eating the bone, so they had to go back and reamputate one of the legs.
Did you do both at the same time?
Oh yeah. I should clear that up. Yeah, I did one left, and then I did the right after. And so
within
one was in January and one was in November, but the one I had to do twice was we were going to wait a little longer, and then when the doctor said, we have this infection, I was like, oh my gosh, I can't start over. This is already a long process. And that's kind of when, I think Satan had his best moments of me, where he really integrated fear. And then that was the drive. It was like, okay, you have this fear. And then all of a sudden it just turned into a spiral web of doubt. It's like, oh, I'm just not worth it anymore. This is the life I'm going to always live, always going to be a burden. Maybe it's better off not to be around. And, this is not fair. Life is not fair. That resentment that I had as a kid was stronger. And that was the darkest point, But, what got me out of it was a couple things. I don't talk about it very often because some people don't like to hear this side, but my daughter, McKenna, she was learning how to walk, and I was learning how to walk too. And that whole process of my mind saying it's better of me not be here was so strong. I just thought for a second of her as with that little pitter patter I'm kind of walking to. I looked at her and I go, it's not fair what happened to me. I had that resentment. I was like, God gave me these cards. That's not fair. But to my daughter, that's not fair for her. I can't control what's happened to me, but for her, I can control that. I can't do that. I need to get out of this fear set.
Wow.
And so the second part was faith. Faith is what I needed. Faith, as we learn of things or things that we cannot see.
Yeah.
But fear is the same way. Yeah. We can't see it. And it was explained to me, and I've learned over the years that they actually work in a very similar way. They both are very powerful. It's just one has the antidote to the other.
Yeah.
And so that's where it all began. I just said I need to have just enough faith to believe that I'm going to get better and hold on to that. And so
was there action with that faith? Like, what did that look like for you to implement your faith and to build upon, to be strengthened by faith?
to lean on, the Savior,
Yeah.
That when you're feeling that kind of pain and no one understands, don't really understands, but there is one person that knows you, right?
Yeah.
That knows us, that's experienced all kinds of pain. And just to fathom what he has experienced, he is the comforter, he gives us the Holy Spirit for that reason. And so it was just a belief, and obviously the options to end my life wasn't an option at that point. And so I thought, let's go ahead with the surgery, and why don't we just amputate both of them at the same time? No more hospital foods, as I say, and save money on that deductible, and just get it over with. And so that's November 2015 is when I lost them both. So
wow. Well, thanks for sharing about your faith as well. I'm a firm believer that the Lord shows up in our lives at different times and in different ways to give us an opportunity to become acquainted with him. And sometimes, he comes knocking on the door in a way we didn't expect, maybe we didn't even want. And you probably wouldn't wish that on anyone else, but you trusted in the process and leaned on him. And I'm sure you became acquainted with him in a different way than you had up to that point in your life.
Absolutely.
And so thanks for sharing that. You've gone through that, the surgery, everything, seems to have gone well with it. And you're a very active individual. So
stubborn.
I would say that. Well, maybe it takes a little bit of that, right? To do the things that you're doing. Was it just this thing like, okay, now I've got new legs. Now I'm going to find something to go out and do. I'm going to shoot for a half Ironman. I'm going to shoot for this. Like what stirred that in you? Or was that kind of the plan prior to, if I do this, I'll be able to do some of these things?
No, prior to, I just was like, I just want to live a decent life, take care of my family, just do the manly responsibilities I felt like I've been taught growing up. But and deep down, I was hoping to do some of the things I love, such as, maybe hunting. And running was not something I thought was an avenue. I thought, I'm too old, 30. That's too old. I look at it now, I was like, oh man,
I just started running.
But no, I was watching TV and in the hospital. And
after the surgeries.
Right after the surgeries, yeah. And it was, the Ironman was playing in the hospital, the actual race.
Had you watched these before or just come?
I knew of them.
Yeah.
Like I had a cousin that did a couple triathlons, but not an Ironman. And so like when I heard about it, it's like, oh my gosh, that's a long distance, because you're swimming for 2.4 miles, then you're biking for 112 miles, and then you're running for 26.2 miles, all in the same day, under 17 hours, 140.6 miles. And I was like, that's amazing.
Yeah.
So I was like, that's what I want to do. And, people thought I was,
was there an athlete you were watching, or was it just like you're seeing these people do it and I'm like, I want to do this?
Sebastian Kienle, he's from Germany. He won it. So obviously he's like, oh my gosh, that was amazing that year. In fact, I ran into him when I did the St. George half Ironman. And I told him that, and he thought that was the coolest thing with his German accent. And one side thing that's funny about him is he's this amazing athlete. At the time he won it, and I'm thinking that there's just this big stout guy that, the Ironman, just this big physical guy. And then I get there and he's like, you saw my son, he's tiny. He's just like bone. I mean, these German endurance athletes are tough, but they're not like huge.
Yeah.
It's huge. So, but no, yeah, that's where it began. I just thought that's what I want to do. It was like a purpose I wanted to play. And then as I did research and talked to experts, it's possible with certain training. I thought, well, okay, I'll sign up for my first 5K, see how I did. Did the trail run. I think that was like when the first handful races I did, then that was an adventure, right? Yeah. And then just built on from there. Did the half Ironmans, did a marathon, half marathon, and then worked my way to the full Ironman.
When was the full Ironman?
2019.
Where was that?
Florida.
Wow.
Florida.
And what was that like?
It was surreal. Like, it was hard. The hardest part of the Ironman wasn't actually the Ironman itself. It was the making the goal. So I made a goal a year in advance.
Okay.
Doing all that training. I got a coach, I had a program, someone to hold me accountable.
Was this the first time you'd hire a coach, or did you have a coach for all the other steps up to that? You just did it on your own, learned.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was like, I don't know. I know there's a process. I wanted to work with somebody. His name is Andrew Stasinos, and he's worked with other Paralympians, and he knew that prosthetics are going to take a toll on my body with the running, and we need to take it slow. Of course, I didn't do very well at listening to that.
The stubborn side came out again.
And I overdid it one day and had blisters in my stump. And this is like 6 months into the race. And those blisters turned into infections. And I got real sick. The doctor was out of town, saw him on Monday, and I had to get surgery.
No.
Didn't have to have amputations, but enough to incision and then drain all the infection out.
Wow.
It was a double step.
Does that happen often, or is you pretty careful about that?
Knock on wood, that's the last one I've had.
Okay.
So, and I try to be careful because if they get bloody, which happens, just overuse or sweat or, different, your skin can change based on what you eat even. And I was just ambitious and trying to say, just put a Band-Aid on, it'll be okay, or rub some dirt on it. But no, it was tough. Like, I thought my race was over, and I was going to push it to 2020. And I thought, well, what's the worst that can happen in 2020? And but I couldn't, deep down, I thought, I'm going to regret it. Something can happen.
Yeah.
And so I just felt, talked to my coach. I says, once I get healed, can I still do this race? And so I went through it and, pushed through. I knew it was going to be hard. Like I focused on swimming and biking because that's what I knew I can protect my limbs. Yeah. And that way I had all day to do the run. Yeah. Even though the run was going to be hard. And sure enough, that's how the race went. We cruised it to the swimming, through the bike, it was at sea level, which was amazing. Yeah. I really felt like Ironman,
That's awesome.
And then the run was the hardest part. That's when I had a friend of mine that we share the same faith, and he told me, he says, there'll be a time you're going to be praying on that course, and just remember who loves you and that he's, he wants the best for you. And I did. I had a moment of prayer, and it was a deep down. It was actually when I do my public speaking event, I share this moment because it really affected the way I look at my life different now. I got to mile 133 on the race, and that's towards the end. So I'm like, I have 7 miles left or so.
7 miles left in the run.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's dark. I've been slow. Like, I was doing like 12-minute miles, not really cruising really fast. I just want to get through it before the time ran out.
That's still pretty quick.
Well, 12-minute miles with it, not including the eating and stuff like that. Because I had some throw up moments too.
Yeah.
But this is where the kicker is that my limb was in so much pain. I think all that adrenaline was wearing off, and I wear these socks to kind of keep my socket from, like my limb to it loses shape. I lose water and stuff like that. So I keep these socks to kind of keep things tight inside my socket. Well, the opposite was happening. I was getting too big. So it got so big that it was shutting off circulation in my knee, and then it just kind of built up to my hip, and then I just couldn't move my leg.
Wow.
And so I was like, oh, this is so painful. So I took my leg off, I took my lantern off, and it was just hamburger meat. It was just awful with the blisters, and I didn't want anyone to see it because I had a fear that they would take me off the course.
Yeah.
So I hurried, put it back on, started trying to get my leg on, and it was really hard to get on because it was just so inflamed.
Wow.
And then I just started walking, and I couldn't go any further. And I was like, oh my gosh. And then what turned into 12-minute miles was like 45 minutes to do a mile. I was that bad, and I just had to stop and go. And then I was looking at my watch, and I was, I was keeping track of where I was and how much time I had left. And I was like, I'm not going to make it.
Because you had a cutoff time you had to be under.
Yeah, 17 hours. I'm not going to make it. So I was like, this is awful. And so I can't believe I got to this point, and it's just that frustration. And that's when, I prayed. I said, I need your help, Lord. What do I do? And I just felt this warm peace of like, this is a moment that I should be happy for, but I'm frustrated. I need to be happy. Why is it that what is it that I need to be happy? So I just started thinking of the things that came to my mind. I thought of my wife, how supportive she was, my beautiful kids. And that was kind of the purpose behind this Ironman, because I wanted to show them that Dad is awesome. He's been, I know we've been in crutches for so many years and he hasn't done things, but he can be cool. And you could do hard things. Like, I wanted to be that example.
Amazing.
My kids, thought of my kids, they're just awesome family. My job, that I was able to do this event, that my employer. And then I started thinking, just trying to get my mind going, not think about that pain, just keep going. So I thought, well, I'm grateful for my eyesight. I'm grateful for my arms. I'm grateful for, my lungs. I still have those things. My hands still work. And then I worked my way to my legs. And, I've always brushed off the thought of this disease. It's like, yeah, it is what it is, right? But this time I was like, am I grateful for my legs? And I just sat back and was like, you know what? If it wasn't for this trial that the Lord has provided for me, I wouldn't have experienced things in my life, such as even being at this race. Like, I wouldn't have been motivated to do that. And I'm, cloud nine out here. I wouldn't have met the amazing people like yourself in my life that have blessed me. And I can't tell you, Trevor, I don't want to go into it in this podcast, but you have blessed my life in different ways you would not know. But people in my life like that, people that I've able to inspire, that have changed their lives as well. And then it got down to all those things. I'm like, yeah, I've learned so many things from this trial, such as patience that's helped me get a better job financially at work, that's made me better husband, has taught me things with my kids, an example. It just, at that moment, I knew that's why I had this trial. It wasn't because Lord gave this to me, because it is what it is. He did this for me.
Yeah.
He's made me who I am today. And it's like, over time, we talked earlier how I learned things over time. And that was the moment and the power of gratitude that came into my life. I was just so grateful. And that's what ended up getting me to the race. And I got under 30 minutes from the cutoff. So
that's amazing.
And that was the magic behind it. And I look at it now and, it was amazing. But like, the lesson I learned there too is like, I wouldn't trade that experience. I wouldn't trade my life. If I went back from, day one, I would pick this life again. I would. It's just things happen for us, not to us. And this was one of the Lord's way of showing that he loves me. It is weird to think that when you're in pain, but it is true. Yeah. It is true. I would never change it.
Man, I've got so many thoughts going through my mind right now of lessons that you just taught me. But it's pretty powerful. You mentioned, and you said it a few times, like, the Lord provided me this. He at that trial, it could be looked at as something that, like, wow, this was provided for me for my good, or for my benefit, for the benefit of those around you. I mean, if you hadn't gone through this, I mean, you'd probably still be inspiring people in some way, shape, or form, but you've chosen to see this as the Lord's provided this opportunity for you and to bless your life. But look at how many people are blessed by watching and learning from you and growing alongside you, and who are like, where we met, can I lean on you? Who are leaning on you, who are leaning on your faith and the life that you live, and the inspiration to do a little bit more when maybe we could come up with excuses in life, and when you started to pray out there, you've got 7 miles left and you're like, I'm not going to get there. And you had a friend that said, you'll have this moment of prayer. Did you think that moment of prayer would turn into a prayer of gratitude? Or was it just like, God, I need this. And then you just kind of started to, because a lot of people pray and they focus on what they don't have. And you prayed and thanked for what you do have. Yeah. Getting to the point of like, yeah, I might be missing something, but it's given, that missing of this has given me so much more. Like, was that just kind of naturally your progression in that prayer and that communication with God? Or was it like, I was to think grateful?
No, I when he told me this, his name's Adam. When he told me this, I was like, oh yeah, I hope I don't hit this wall where I feel like I'm on my desperation prayer. And sure enough, it happened. And, I was looking for more, like, I just need some guidance, something say, yeah, just maybe it was something I needed to change in my prosthetic, or maybe it was, a power to just like, just to push, just that extra boost to get through that pain, just something in there. But no, it's just say, hey, he basically said, you have these tools in you. This is what you need to do. And of course, I just felt that warm peace as soon as I thought, what makes me happy, and as my family, and it's just started to build from there. I still have to use that gratitude from time to time. It's something you can't forget. If you can, I've learned that gratitude is so powerful. Next to love, it's probably the most powerful feeling that we can have.
So true. I think, is it gratitude they say is the mother of all virtues, where if you just, that creates an attitude that can help us overcome so much in life. And so I would say for anyone listening, that's a major takeaway right now. If you're going through anything in life, obviously turn to God, ask for the help that you need. And then in that same prayer, recognize what has been given. And maybe at times kind of, instead of looking for the bad or looking for what you don't have, like focus on all that we do have, because most of us, if not all of us, have so much to just look to and say, wow.
There's just so much. There's no time to think of what we don't have. It's like the opposite of, gratitude, I feel like, is a lot of it's jealousy.
Yeah.
And that is the thief of joy.
Has that impacted your life at all? You said growing up and stuff there were some things I wanted to do, but has that been something you've had to overcome, looking at other people, things they're doing, or is it just like, no, I'm just going to do it a different way, maybe?
Just do it. Exactly. Obviously now there's deep things and goals that I'm like, well, I've always wanted to climb Kings Peak, and I couldn't as a kid. And deep down, that was a goal that is like, well, now I did this Ironman, I'm going to climb the tallest mountain in Utah. And I did Timpanogos a few years ago. And this was kind of more of a new one, but I wanted to get shape, like crazy shape, do this, physique bodybuilding show. And it's like, that's not me, by the way, like to make that
good
goal.
Segue into that, because I did want to talk about that. Because I was telling Sid downstairs as he came in this morning, he posted, I think it was last week, and it had these quadrants with like, his progress, transformation physically, and then the last one's kind of blurred out. But man, I've been watching you like over the last few months, and your routine is awesome. It's hardcore. You've got to be a bit stubborn, definitely disciplined to do what you're doing. But you can see the transformation. When you came to our 10-year anniversary, I could tell, like, just giving you a hug, I'm like, there's some serious muscle on this man right now. And I didn't know you were preparing for, I think you just told the world, right? Last week or something, like, hey, I've actually been prepping for this bodybuilding competition. Tell us more about that.
Well, it really, I tore my MCL playing basketball about a year ago. And, I lifted a little bit here and there, but I loved, basketball and running and biking. I still love those sports, but I hit the iron just to kind of recover my knee, and just saw these guys, what they had to do. And I talked to one of them, and he's a classic bodybuilder. So he's, the big guys. And he tells me all the protein he eats. He wakes up in the morning and eats raw eggs, and then he has like his own fridge at his house because he can't eat, or his basement because he can't look at the fridge in his own house. I'm like, oh my gosh, that is hardcore. And I just like, golly, that sounds interesting. At the same time, I like that challenge. I like, kind of when after the Ironman, I was like, I love that, having that drive and mindset, just kind of a goal oriented thing. I thought, this is maybe something I want to try. And then in January this year, I was like, okay, I'm going to do it. I did research and talked to some guys and kind of get me set. The bulking stage is my favorite, where you eat as much as you can and lift as hard as you can and eat as much protein. And then when it comes down to a diet, that's when I learned, it's like, oh, well, I'll just burn that off. I can, work 10 miles. And like, no, you can't run off a bad diet. I'm like, food, I love food. Like, even when I did the Ironman, I was eating like 9,000 calories.
Wow.
And this case, I had to drop it down to 2. And it was bitter. It was tough. Like, it was just learning how to cook, just the maintenance of like adding everything on my fitness palette and weighing everything. And then of course my wife got annoyed because every time we went somewhere, I had to order something funky from the menu, or I brought like a family reunion to Idaho. I brought all my elk meat and food while everybody cooked and had pasta. I'm sitting there eating these, fajitas but just trying to stay healthy. But no, it's about a month away, and I was
here in Utah, or where's the?
Yeah, it's at Cottonwood, and never done it before. Obviously, it's not my cup of tea as far as like, look at me type of thing.
Yeah.
But in fact, I used to make fun of the guys that would pose in front of the mirrors, like, oh my gosh.
And now that's you, huh?
Fancy boy. No, I close the door when I pose. But it just is intriguing what our bodies are capable when you put it to the limits. It's also, I think the spirit works the same way. When things happen in your life that are stressful and tight, and you have to hunker down, it changes you.
Yeah.
And this, I wouldn't say this is definitely not something I could sustain forever, but it's definitely given me a different tools where I am more cautious of what I do with my food. Like I mean, for one, I can't eat 5 pieces of pizza and be okay with myself.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, dang, that's awesome.
I know, it sounds good, doesn't it?
Well, yeah, it does, because I've been on a gluten-free diet for the last month, and I actually had a cauliflower pizza the other night. Oh, it tasted so good. I was telling people about it, and they're like, it only tasted good because you haven't had the real thing in a while, but it tasted good to me. But so I'm learning more about disciplining on my diet side. I heard somebody say the other day, like, my inner fat man just wants to eat everything that's there, and it's a struggle. I mean, food is definitely an addiction, and we have a lot of really good foods all around us, right? That it's fun to enjoy, but it's awesome that you've disciplined yourself to say, hey, I'm gonna just feed myself what is good for my body right now. It's interesting to hear the spiritual aspect of it, to how the spirit's working within you at the same time.
Yeah,
you're taking care of that temple.
Yeah, well, fasting has its.
Yeah,
there's a reason why that's part of something that we practice, and there's times where it's like when I'm on, edgy, and sometimes I have to pray for peace. And I mean, not just necessarily. I'm already kind of a basket case as it is with being a carb depletion, but it's just I've had to lean to the Lord sometimes just to help me through the strength. I know it sounds silly for something that's like this, but it just gives me a chance to, rely and lean on Him.
That's awesome. Well, I can't wait to see how the competition goes, and not necessarily like, hey, did you win or anything? I'm sure maybe you're striving to win and be on the podium that way. I don't know how the bodybuilding competitions go, but it's incredible, like, just to see the transformation you've gone through. Maybe is there a product from Mountain Ops that's been a go-to favorite product, and maybe when we launch this episode, let's give that product away. Like,
yes.
There's obviously there's, I'm sure, a handful of products that you love, but is there one that's like, hey, let's give this away?
Easy.
Okay.
Easy. Magnum.
Okay.
And the reason why, and there are a lot of proteins, there's some good ones, but the chocolate is so good. In fact, when you did your CTM post, I says, that's my number one.
Yeah.
It's good. It's 110 calories, 23 grams of protein, which that ratio is amazing.
Yeah.
And I put it in like Greek yogurt. I put it in my, I'll do egg whites, Greek yogurt, and Mountain Ops, Magnum, cottage cheese.
Cool.
And like a little bit so I can get some carbs of the Kodiak pancakes. Mix it all together in a blender and make that. I mean, a third of a cup of each, it equals out to be about 63 grams of protein.
Okay. That's awesome.
And that's an awesome amount and like 300
Jot that
calories.
recipe down.
Yeah.
I want to try that. That's
well,
awesome.
Work your way into it, because at first you're like, oh man,
Yeah.
But no syrup, no butter, just it is to me. But I'm like, I would salivate if that was sitting in front of me. But yeah, no, I love the Magnum just because it was just an easy fix, and that's my number one. If I had to pick number two, I do like the combo of the creatine and the Yeti.
Okay.
Bugleberry though, that's the best.
Cool. That's awesome.
Bugleberry. Well, pink lemonade. Bugleberry, I like those.
On the Ignite or Yeti or what product?
Yeti.
Yeti. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Oh, that's awesome.
No,
well, I guess we're giving he's giving away 2 bottles then. We'll have that happen. A Magnum chocolate and a Bugleberry Yeti.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll do that when we launch this. Any sights on any? I mean, you're probably like laser focused on the competition right now. What's after that? Any challenge that you're going to face physically, or is there like, hey, no, I'm just gonna?
That's a good question. In fact, my wife and I, one of the things we do before we go to bed, we have a scriptures that we read,
Just you and her.
You and her. Yeah, we arranged it 2 pages, and then we have it's an app that's it's kind of funny. It's called Ultimate Intimacy. They're an LDS family out of St. George.
Okay.
And on the app, it has a conversation starter.
Yeah.
We're trying to focus on not just all kinds of intimacy that focuses on conversations too. And one of them is like, one of the things that bugs you about your spouse.
I can see where this is going.
It's just like, you have too many hobbies. Like, you said you liked hunting when you got married, but you didn't specify that the archery.
Hunting was inclusive of.
Yeah, and when I was a rifle hunter prior, and it was just October, but she's like, you hunt in August, September, October, November, and December, and then you go hunt ducks in January, and so it's like, it's never ending there. So she has kind of mentioned, because I'm like, honey, I want you to know that I am looking for another goal, even though I haven't achieved this one. Like, my goal for this one is I want to beat the other double amputee that's going to be there.
Okay, there's 2 of you but it's not. Is it just amputees in this competition, or
no? It's all able bodies. Right. But no, the other double amputee. In fact, I saw him in the bathroom in the mirror when I got in, come up the stairs, and so that's that guy. He's serious. He gets in my head sometimes. So that is the goal, is to beat him.
Wow, that's powerful.
So that's the purpose behind that one, of course. I think was it Eric Chesser? He did one. So I looked at different things on videos, and
Eric McCormick does them all the time.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Eric just did one. McCormick did it.
Yeah, he's done a bunch, but.
Yeah, it's harder than you think. It's not like I was in my mind where I can't pose the right way. I don't flex all the time in front of the mirror, so there's like a certain way you're supposed to flex. But the other, back to your question, but like, I want to find something else. Like, it's still on the tip of my tongue what it wants to do. Like, there's mountains I still want to climb, hunts that I want to save up for and do.
What's on the top of your list for like a few bucket list hunts that you're love to do?
I have yet to kill a bear.
Okay.
Yeah, like I've gone on bear hunts, whether it be a black bear or grizzly bear. That's been one that I've always wanted to do. I haven't killed a big mule deer. Those are getting harder these days. Yeah. I do have a real big elk hunt this year on a CWU that I'm excited about.
That's awesome.
But Africa would be fun, but or New Zealand, like when you shot that tar that's downstairs.
Yeah.
Those are beautiful.
Yeah.
Like, that's the adventure of New Zealand and the whole, Lord of the Rings atmosphere.
Yeah,
that's
amazing
adventure. So that's on those lists, the hunts there. So
would you want to do rifle or bow, or do you not care if you?
I like them both, but I'm not the kind of guy that has to do one or the other.
Okay.
Like, I love my rifle and I love my bow. So.
Cool. No, that's awesome.
They both have, I think, pluses and minuses as far as rewards go. So
that's amazing. I want to come back to challenges here in a minute, and maybe have you in the back of your mind be thinking of a challenge you can issue for me to go after in life.
Oh yeah.
I sometimes I can't come up with what is it for me. So sometimes I turn to someone else, and that's when I ran my first Moab, the first marathon that I did. It was Truett Haynes doing that challenge to beat David Goggins years ago. And when he was doing it, I was like, hey, what should I do? And he's like, run a marathon. I was like, a lot of people run a marathon. And he's like, only 1% of the world population is run a marathon. So that's, anyways, be thinking of that a little bit. But you and I had an experience. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to be there for the actual event. I don't know if you were either, but we were able to work together with Do Utah.
Yeah.
And I want people to know what you're doing there, Disabled Outdoors in Utah, where you came and presented at the Mountain Ops booth in the Hunt Expo. It was in 2023, I think.
Yeah. It was just this last fall. With Nate.
Yeah, with Nate.
It's really nice guy. And there couldn't have been a better guy for that hunt. It was actually one of our first quadriplegic elk hunts that we done.
I didn't know that.
Do Utah, we've done sheep ones, exotic sheep ones, so there's a little more time to prepare, and deer. But to do a quadriplegic elk hunt is hard.
Yeah.
Because elk don't mess around.
Yeah.
They don't care if you're in a chair.
Yep.
And that was hard. That was one that I really wanted to go to. My dad, who just was recovering from a heart attack. He drew this 26-point tag, and it fell on the same days. And I just, it was a tough decision, but I decided to go with him. And in the end, it turned out well. Mike Felice, that's part of Utah with us, he took care of him and
took really good care. And some of our team members, I podcasted with Ryan Ward just a few weeks ago, and he shared that experience. And we were both just sweaty-eyed in here talking about it, because Nate Ogden's, I mean, he's dedicated his life now to giving people opportunities to move in wheelchairs all around the world, and I've been on a few trips with him to deliver those. And so he had no idea that you were about to present to him this hunt of a lifetime, this elk hunt here in Utah. I don't know if you remember on the stage, you kind of presented about Do Utah.
Oh, yeah.
The video was playing, and he wheels over to you.
Yep.
And he's like, hey, how can I help?
Yes.
So that at that moment, I knew, but like at that moment, it's like, yes, this is the right guy.
Absolutely.
You want to reward an individual that he's not there for himself. He's there. He's like, how do I get involved? How do I help? Without even knowing that he's about to be given this hunt.
Dude, I was trying to hold back the tears because I knew what was about to happen.
Yeah.
And he's like, hey, what can I do to help? And he does not even know. Yeah. That tells you the kind of guy he was. And I'm glad you met. And thank you so much for sponsoring that, because that was one of our favorite hunts last year. So
highlight for me as well. And I think my niece or nephew, I can't remember, was getting married that day, so I missed it as well. And I was like, I hope he doesn't shoot something the first day so that I can get up there after this.
Sure enough.
But I mean, like you said, it had to be kind of the perfect scenario for him, and it was like kind of one of these heaven sent things and opportunities that just came together the right way with the right people. So thanks for letting us be a part of that. And we need to look for another one of those opportunities to do together, and me and you get out there. There's this photo that, remember on Instagram how there was that, you'd post a photo and it'd make you old? Me and you have one of those together from a tack, and we're both like looking old in that picture. And I thought we were pretty good looking old guys.
I thought so too.
So
you were ripped.
not ripped like you, but we, as we grow old, we need to find some adventures to go on. If it's Africa, or if it's New Zealand, or if it's a Do Utah, like let's plan some things together.
That would be a trip.
Because you're the type of individual I want to spend more time with, and I want to learn more from. And I'm just inspired by you. Is there something you'd challenge me to do? I mean, this is to the public. Like, maybe give me some options, two or three options, so that I can choose. I don't want to be just like, oh crap, I got to do that now.
Oh man, I challenge you to be a general authority of our.
You're funny.
Well, I say that because other people that have met you know what kind of guy you are. But have you swum a mile before?
I haven't.
Okay. Well, that's one that I could think of. A mile, in a lake.
Okay.
But we would do the safety thing. We make sure you're in a wetsuit and someone's next to you.
All right.
But I want to say do it with no legs if you can. That's a good one, because swimming for some people, especially when I was getting people into triathlons, that's the hardest one.
Yeah.
Because it's like, I'm just throwing, water and I'm sinking.
Honestly, it's I've biked and I've ran, and I've never really swam.
Yeah.
And I swim. I get, in the pool and at the lake, and just when we're out boating and that type of thing. But I have never gone for any distance that way.
Oh, yeah.
I've messed around in a lap pool maybe once or twice, preparing for a little Spudman triathlon, which I think got canceled because of COVID or something. So I didn't end up even doing it.
Yeah, a mile's a good distance, especially because, like I said, in a pool it's different because of that element of you can see the bottom. But when you're looking down and you see nothing but black, it gets into your mind a little bit. So it just makes it a little harder.
Cool.
So
I'll
think of another one. One of the things I've always wanted to try to do is get my master's. How are you with your school?
Bachelor's.
Yeah.
That's on the tip of my tongue. My wife's gonna love that one.
That's a big sacrifice financially and time consuming. But that's been on my bucket list to get my master's, and I don't even need it with my job. It's just,
that's kind of always been in the back of my mind as well. I've gotten invited to do like this. It's like an executive program at Harvard, where it's like this. You go for like 2 months and you go live there on campus. It's like a September, October, November type thing. I had a friend that did this, and it's just this crash course, and you do it for a few years. That was really appealing to me, but I couldn't leave for 2 months at a time. It'd be difficult. When I did do my bachelor's degree in marketing, it was really difficult for our family because it was a crash course. I did it all online, starting a new business, was called into a bishopric, like all this all at once. And it was like, I barely saw my family, you know? And so my wife, if I say, hey, I'm going to go get more school, she has let me do some crazy things where she's like, I feel like I need to do this. She's like, all right, like, let me know how I can support it. You know, I think we've got similar wives where they're just like, whoa, here's another thing. I think she'd totally be down for the swimming thing.
Yeah.
The education, I'm all about it. I love just gaining more and more knowledge and education that way. I'm trying to do it now just through not traditional ways, obviously, just reading a lot, and especially gospel knowledge. I just want to immerse myself in it as much as possible. And I can't get enough. I've got a daughter on a mission right now, and she's like, Dad, I love diving into this. Yeah, and it's so fun.
How long has it been so far?
Almost 6 months.
6 months.
Yeah, and she just wrote us some handwritten letters. It's always emails, you know, but we just got the first handwritten letters just this week in the mail.
That's OG. That's authentic.
It is OG, because when you and I were out, there was everything. That's what you did, right? I think at the end of my mission, we could start to email like my last month, and I was just like, I'm so used to just writing the letters, and this is kind of my journaling, so I'll just keep sending the letters. But with her, you know, we get the emails every week, and we get to talk to her every week, and it's been awesome to watch that progress. But this handwritten letter, it was amazing. She's diving into the gospel. She's living it in a different way than she's ever have, and she says, Dad, I understand your excitement for this, like watching you my whole life and watching the excitement you have for sharing the gospel of Jesus Christ. She's like, it is in my blood. You know, and I've always told her that, like, it's in my blood as well. Even hunting, like, I felt like as I've learned to hunt, it's like, this is in my blood. But nothing more so than the gospel of Jesus Christ. And so to hear her say, Dad, it's in my blood as well, you know, it's like, she's feeling it. She understands. And so it's so fun to watch that progress of, you know, your own child.
That's beautiful.
So
that is the joy. Like my son, he's in that age where he's like, holy, 2 years is so long. And well, you met him today, and his friend, but both of those boys want to go.
Yeah.
And I keep telling him, it's like, you know what? And your daughter probably one of those. It's a great experience that I look back on. You know, yeah, it's hard, but I would never give it up.
Yeah.
Like I'm kind of jealous.
Me too.
You know, I don't miss living on ramen and peanut butter jelly sandwiches. I'm jealous. I wish I could do that.
I do too. I always say, like, you know, if we were asked to drop our nets right now, we would. We would drop them and run. But we're not asked to. But we are asked to use whatever nets we have to share it, to kind of gather and to use those nets to bring people in, to point people to what brings you joy in life, you know. And so I appreciate you bringing God into the conversation today, because it's so much a part of who we are and the journey that we've been on. And I'm so grateful for the strength that you received through that relationship to go through the things that you've gone through, and to just conquer them. I mean, it's incredible. This conversation, this podcast, it's all about conquering in life. You're the example. If we were to say, hey, what does conquering look like? Here's the life of Sidney Smith. So really appreciate that. So swimming or a master's degree, huh? Yeah. Anything else?
Or some kind of, yeah, so doesn't have to do master's degree. I can understand that one's kind of crazy, but something on those education lines.
Okay.
So.
That's good, man. That's really good. You know, as we've been talking, you've talked about the Ironman, and there was one of and then you start bodybuilding. You talked about the iron, like you're talking about the bar.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it just makes me think, and this goes to scripture. But I look at somebody like you, and you've done this incredible feat. We had James Lawrence, the Iron Cowboy, come and speak to Mountain Ops once, and you know, to do that every day, yeah, the 50-50-50, and then the 100, and then, you know, let's just do one more to make sure we conquer more than the 100. I mean, it's unfathomable. It's like, how in the world do you do one? How in the world do you do half of that? How do you know? Because you know, we're here in Utah, and those that aren't here, you won't understand this. But you think of waking up every morning and starting down in like Orem or Provo down by BYU, and you ride your bike up to the border of Utah and Idaho, you know, and then you swim first, and then you do that, and then you run a marathon. It's like, how do you just keep doing that? But there's some scriptures you and I are familiar with where there's a group of individuals that they commence in a path. I always call it the 3 C's. They commence in this path and they're trying to reach towards this iron rod. And I think of an Ironman, just holding to that. And they wander off and they're lost because there's this mist of darkness. And it's like life. There's so many mists of darkness. There's adversary, there's rejection, there's voices, there's resistance, and oftentimes those resisting factors they veer us away, they carry us away from the path we should be on. And then the next C, it's not just commencing, but there's some that actually get there and they are clinging to this iron rod, this they're starting to become that Iron Man or Iron Woman, whatever it is, and but clinging, it's like you're just barely holding on. And sometimes life is like that. I think for all of us, we can kind of fit into each of these scenarios. And I'm sure there was times in your life where it's like, maybe it's like you mentioned, maybe it's best if I'm just not here, and you're just kind of clinging. But then you find that hope through your daughter and her first steps and your steps, and you start to cling a little tighter. The example I see in you, those that cling, they don't usually last super long. They might even get to the destination a little bit, but they're not completely committed to it, and so it's just not the impact. And then there's this third group, and it says they continually held fast to the iron rod. And that continually holding fast, it's what it's all about in life. And it's hard. We do get distracted. We do, have these struggles in life where it's like, oh, can I cling any longer? Can I really hold fast any longer? But ultimately, it brings us to this destination. Spiritually, it's like this destination where it's like we have this connection to a higher power and this connection to this source of strength that you leaned on when you needed it most. And I just think of that, the difference. There's a physical Ironman, there's a spiritual Ironman. I look at like somebody that embodies both of them right here in front of me. Someone that, you've accomplished and you've conquered those feats of the swim, the run, the bike, the run, and that's incredible. But honestly, the man that I look at and the spiritual feat, the spiritual giant in front of me as well, that holds on a lot longer than just that 17 hours. That's continually holding fast in so many ways for a lifetime, enduring to the end, and that ultimate outcome is incredible. So thank you for that example, kind of bringing those worlds together as I'm sitting here listening to you like, you're an Ironman. And that means so much more than just completing that race, in my opinion.
Thank you.
You're incredible, Sid. I loved having you here. Anything else you'd want to share to wrap up? Sometimes I'll ask the question and you can answer this in your own way, or you can answer it directly. Like in the end, how will you measure your life?
Ooh.
And any other thoughts you'd want to end this podcast on?
You can't say stuff like that and go on. Jace, that is very kind of you to say that. Thank you. And just to add on, that is one of my, as soon as you started that, I'm like, oh man, he's going to get me. Because that is one of my favorite stories. That great and spacious building is a real thing. And I think about that story. In fact, there's a reason why we talk about it a lot. My mother, she has not read your book, but my goal is to get her a copy because she would love.
Well, I'll send you one today.
Oh, I told her all about our 10-year anniversary experience. I'm like, this is so awesome. Mom, you got to read this. But she always uses that example because that joy that Lehigh had felt when they came and tasted that fruit, she talks about that, when we get married and go through our covenants and keep our covenants like that. She says that is the joy of being a mother. And, of course I didn't have kids when she tells me this, and now I see it. Yeah. Like it is amazing for them to hold on. Sorry, what was your question?
No, just that's great. Like, how will you measure when all is said and done? How will you measure your life? What are you wanting to? I mean, you're doing so many incredible things. Is there an aspect of your life that's like, for my wife, for my kids, for the world, this is how I want to be?
Yeah, you think about, what would, I've had some near-death experiences, like what would be like at my funeral type of thing, and how would I want my obituary read, and I'm not looking for the whole town to be there or nothing. That's not what I hope for, but I just hope the people that I run into, keep in contact with, or friends that I've close, is that I just love you. Like I love you. I love so many people, and I want people to understand that love can be reciprocated to another person, and just to keep on to that. Like don't need the recognition of all that joy or bringing that to your life. I just want people to know that I love you. And if you feel alone, I guess because I've been down this path, is that there's someone that loves you more, that knows you more than anybody else. And that person is someone, we talked about leaning on. That's someone that you could always lean on. They'll always be there to hold you. So,
That's awesome.
I think that's about the best I can think of when I think of what I hope people get from my experience with them, is that they no ill feelings. If you do me wrong, I'll still pray for you.
I love that about you. And I've felt that way from someone you can lean on. We started with that. Let's end with that. Sid is definitely somebody you can lean on, and he'll help you lean on a source of strength that he's found as well, that I completely believe in as well and lean on in my life. And so thanks for being that type of individual.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Trevor.
Appreciate you being here.
Love you, bud.
Love you too, man.